Hey guys, Sneaky Snake here, Brothers in Arms, World of Warships, and today's video we're going to take a look at my favorite premium in World of Warships, the Tier 7 US Destroyer, the Sims. For this replay, I'm divisioned up with my buddies from Rushby and MIA, D-Mags, and the Real Senpai. They're playing in the Hiryu and Lyon respectively, the Tier 7 Japanese aircraft carrier and French battleship, and we're playing some domination here on the map Haven. So the Sims in World of Warships, what do you need to know about it? This is a ship that I love. I'm going to bring up this little screenshot that I took from one of the third-party websites, one of the stats websites, and this is indeed my most played ship in World of Warships with 141 battles and counting played in it to date. The win rate, average damage, average frags, I love playing this thing, and I play it at a really high level. So then, I'm sure you might be asking, what is it about this destroyer that I like so much? Well, the Sims is a good representation of the US destroyer line in general. It has defensive AA, it has access to smoke screens, it has access to the really fast firing 127mm guns, it has reasonable stealth and excellent maneuverability, and there's not really one thing off the top of my head that I could think that is too weak with this ship. Maybe the rather mediocre torpedoes to choose from. I guess that's something that you could definitely make an argument over. But just going over the ship really quickly, and, you know, this thing is fantastic. Stock hit points, 13,800. Obviously, it's a premium, so if you put on Survivability Expert, you can see you have just over 16,000 to work with. It's not top tier by any means, but these American DDs at the mid-tiers, they're actually pretty small compared to their contemporaries, so the hit point total is a little bit on the low side. You have 427mm guns with a rate of fire of 3.34 seconds before you factor in something like basic firing training. The gun's range is pretty decent as well at 12.8 kilometers. Granted, they have very floaty arcs, and it's going to be a bit difficult to hit ships that are wildly maneuvering at ranges of 8 kilometers plus, I'd say. Now, really quickly here, before I go back to the stats, I'm using my smokescreen to push myself into B. I would be detected by the Akatsuki right now, and I do so right as I shoot from the other guy that is off my bow, and I'm getting some good shots into this Japanese destroyer, and at this kind of range, below 6 kilometers, that is the sweet spot for an American destroyer, where you're able to deal lots of damage because it's not really that difficult to hit shells on target. I've had quite a few shells that have landed and impacted, and this Akatsuki, he's just not going to be able to get away. And I managed to pick up the First Blood, which is a medal that I do get quite often in this ship, because you can be very aggressive with it when you go into the cap at the early part of the game. And with that Japanese destroyer taken care of, my buddy and I in the Benson are going to be able to take care of Objective Bravo. The enemy team is hurting around the 2-3 line at the moment, so even though there's a lot of radar that's over there, I don't have to worry about it because I'm either out of range or I'm, you know, in a position where if I do get radared, I can immediately get out of B, and it's not going to be that big of a deal. So, anyway, getting back to the statistics. The torpedoes that this thing comes equipped with, well, yeah, I guess you could say that they're a bit on the mediocre side. So you have two options. The first set, 9.1 kilometers of range, a very paltry 49 knots. That is exceptionally slow for destroyer torpedoes, and only 8,500 maximum damage, assuming that you hit a ship that has no torpedo belt. So basically speaking, you can dump an entire broadside of 8 torpedoes against something like a Yamato, even though you don't fall in that matchmaking bracket, but I digress. If you launched it on a Yamato, you might do 30,000, 35,000 damage. These torpedoes are extremely anemic. The ones that I decide to run on this ship are torpedoes that, well, it's debatable if they're better. They have a range of 5.5 kilometers, so you do lose quite a bit of range, but the speed actually goes up to a pretty healthy 65 knots, and they do deal a little bit more damage, 11,600. But, of course, the trick is that they only have a range of 5.5 kilometers. So when you try to use those torpedoes, think back to something like the Clemson or the Wicks, where you really do have to get well within detectability range to be able to use them. So conversely, you have to use cover, concealment, smoke, islands, all that good stuff to be able to move into position without taking too much damage, and then drop your torpedoes on the broadside and take care of business. So yeah, the torpedoes aren't the best by any means, but you do at least have a pretty decent reload on them anyway. For the torpedoes that I have, 87 seconds. The Aaa Defense on the Sims is not that great from a numbers perspective, but you can see that I do have defensive fire, and that's one reason why this ship is so much fun to play, because when you do pop it, nowadays it's a ×4 buff to destroyers for the potency. And stock values, taking a look at the average DPS, let's see here, 32 average damage on the 127 millimeters, 10.7 on the Mark 30 Mod 1, which is just one of the turrets that you have, 15 on the Browning, 7.2 on the Orlikin, the 20 millimeters. Obviously, if you put on things like AFT, BFT, AA Guns Mod, you're going to be able to get your range out really nicely, which is a very good thing. But again, when you pop defensive fire, you're able to shoot down a lot of planes. Now, I have popped a defensive fire earlier in this game, and it did not shoot down any of the Rangers fighters, as a matter of fact. But the point still remains. When you do go against lower tier carriers, you can deal a lot of plane kills in this thing. And even against equal tier carriers, as long as they're well within your AA range, you're going to be able to shoot down quite a few of them. Now right here, I'm shooting at the enemy turrets. I am getting pretty lucky with the RNG because the base fire chance on these shells is a very pedestrian 5%. Not Soviet, it's not Japanese. You have to shoot a lot of shells downrange to get fires, but of course, because the reload is so nice, and you can see from my reload, it is 3 seconds on the dot with BFT, you're able to deal quite a bit of damage if you know exactly where to aim. When you're shooting AP, you shoot into the superstructure. When you're shooting high explosive, shoot into the superstructure. The fact remains that's where you're going to deal a pretty good amount of damage. And you can see that I've actually racked up a pretty decent bit on the Turpets as he gets taken care of by my buddy in the Iowa. Now, the two low-key things that are extremely important numbers for destroyers and things that just make this ship so much fun to play and make it my most played ship is the turning circle, only 500 meters, and a rudder shift of 2.7 seconds. You can see right there, no problem whatsoever. The engine actually responds really nicely without propulsion mod 2. So put on the rudder shift and let your rudder do even more crazy and tighter turns. And then the concealment, 7.56 kilometers stock, you can get it down to 6.6, which is not best in tier by any means. But if you're able to use islands and cover and all that good stuff successfully, you can creep up on enemy ships, get within their detection range, like something, say like German destroyers, like a Z-23, has about 6.1, 6.2 kilometer detection. Japanese destroyers like the Akatsuki that have sub 6 kilometer detection. You need to be able to think like your lower tier American DDs, move in between islands, and put yourself in a position where you're going to be able to use your much superior DPM and be able to take care of business. And the last thing statistically wise that I will mention about this ship is that it has the mechanized turrets that you find on ships like the Benson, the Fletcher, and the Gearing. So your turret turning is unbelievably good. 5.29 seconds for a full 180 degree turret turn. That's actually better than the Mahan, which I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but I think it's about 10 seconds, 10, 11 seconds, something like that. These turrets turn extremely quickly, and it makes engaging ships that maybe surprise you on the other side of your ship pretty easy to deal with. Alright, so now we're going to focus on the gameplay here for the last little bit. You can see that we have a pretty comfortable lead at 737 to 465. We have 2 caps, the enemy team has 2 caps, and so far for the majority of this game, I've just stayed in and around the B cap, keeping these enemy ships at bay, utilizing my guns, utilizing my smoke screen to deal damage. I'm up to 62,000, which is about my average, but there's still plenty more that's going to need to be taken care of before we can consider this a victory. I'm moving into the friendly smoke screen that was provided by the Benson. You can see there's still 45 seconds left until this smoke screen runs out. So being able to take advantage of other smoke screens is, well, it's not just an American destroyer-centric thing, but it's a good DD play to make regardless. And I'm, for some reason, able to push this enemy Missouri away with gunfire. I don't know why he didn't decide to turn in and maybe get some radar coverage over the B-cap, but, you know, hey, he's making a dumb play, and I'm going to let him keep making it, and I'm going to keep peppering this guy. And you can see pretty decent and consistent damage on the superstructure. Now, as torpedoes go on my stern, I'm going to move backwards a little bit and get some shots here at the enemy Nagato. Now, I can see that he is turning in, so it does look like he might be trying to move into the cap. I immediately change my focus of fire to the other Akatsuki, and I pop my next defensive fire as those fighter aircraft are somewhat close to me. Getting some more shots going down. Will I be able to get the kill? I make an incapacitation on him. I drop my torpedoes at the enemy Nagato because I thought that he was going to continue to push in. That's not what he decides to do. However, at this point, I decide to switch to the armor-piercing shot, and you're going to notice where I aim right above the belt armor, just below the superstructure, and that's where you're able to do some pretty decent damage. Right there, 2,400 as I pick up the Confederate. My AA guns are going to town, and again, look exactly where the shells are landing. Another 2.5K salvo right on the upper part, And, you know, this is something that a lot of people don't realize about American armor-piercing shells. They can deal a lot of good damage at close range on broadside ships. And honestly, if you're shooting at British light cruisers, for example, at ranges of under 5 kilometers, you can actually get citadels on those guys, just like Soviet destroyers are able to as well. You can see some torpedoes going in on the Gato. He is going to kick the bucket, I believe. Nope, he only takes 2 of them as I shoot down yet another plane. He's burning. I'm pretty sure he's flooding at this point, too. He's on 4,800 hit points, and then my buddy in the Richelieu manages to finish him off, which is good stuff. So now I'm throwing some more shells downrange at the enemy Missouri. I still have the armor-piercing shot loaded. Even at 12.2 kilometers, if your AP does hit in the right spots, you can still deal some pretty decent damage. However, I really should have switched to the high-explosive shot by now. But I don't think I realized it at the time because I was a little bit too focused on trying to land shells into his superstructure. You can see more shells going in, just a little bit too short. 12.9 kilometers of range. Again, this is the stock range. I do not have AFT on this bad boy, but honestly, for American destroyers, you really shouldn't, because all it does is increase the distance and the range that you can get spotted at, and you can see, shooting at that kind of range, it takes a very long time for the shells to get there. So at this point, I'm switching my focus now to the enemy Monarch, that Tier 8 British battleship. He's at 6.4 kilometers moving away, and I'm spamming the high explosive shot right into the top part of the superstructure. The Queen Anne's Mansion, or that boxy, blocky part on the front, is where you want to try to hit with the high explosive shot. And much like German battleships, when you shoot into that area on British BBs, you're going to be able to deal pretty consistent damage. You can see make that 10 penetrations and 14 shatters, so a decent bit of damage dealt. But, you know, just pushing him off, trying to do my best to keep him out of the BCAT. Now, unfortunately for our team, it's 807 to 720. That enemy Missouri is only on 326 hit points, and I finally take my first decent salvo of the game from the enemy Kutuzov cruiser Baltimore over there, about 10.5 kilometers away. So at this point, I decide to stop shooting, and I'm going to wait until I go undetected before I decide to use my repair. But this is a bit of a misplay because I wasn't expecting a shell to hit me, and the next shell that does knocks out my engine once again. So a very bad bit of RNG right there that befuddled me. But you know what? Whatever. I'm going to pop my smoke screen here, and I'm going to deal some more damage to this enemy Monarch. And once again, you can see pretty consistent damage up on the superstructure area, dealing about 1,000 with every salvo that goes in, which is nice. And I'm hoping for some more fires. 309 shells shot and 7 fires so far in the game is actually pretty decent RNG. I don't believe I have the flags on this bad boy that increase the fire chance. They would go up to 6%, because with guns of 155 and below, or maybe it's 140 and below, you only get 0.5%, but there's 2 different flags that you can put on it. So that's okay. Still dealing some decent damage to the Monarch. I'm almost up to 120,000 points of damage, and it's pretty impressive because I haven't landed a single torpedo thus far in the game, doing all of this good stuff with the guns. So at this point, you can see some of my friends have moved into the Charlie cap, so we're going to have 3 caps to 1 here sometime in the near future, which is really nice. And the enemy team has been pushed back all the way to their spawn point. However, this is something that happens in World of Warships that I wish it didn't as much, and I wish people would just truly understand, you know, things like map control in the cap game. There's no reason for us to push in there. The Akatsuki manages to take out the Neptune. I believe he was the guy that was in Charlie, so a good play by him. But you can see my friendly Richelieu and Amagi that are on the western side of the map, and the Charles Marteau that just got killed. They're still pushing into the enemy's base. Now, when the enemy team balls up like that, you just shouldn't be doing that because they're gonna, you know, shoot at you. Duh, right? You'd think so anyway. And you can see the friendly Amagi is getting dropped down by the enemy aircraft carrier. We are actually losing the game at this point, 803 to 854. We're still capturing the sea cap, and we should be able to get it. And the Kronstadt manages to take out the Akatsuki, but right in due course, the New Orleans takes care of the friendly Amagi. So we're still losing this game, and I'm now switching my focus fire here to the enemy Baltimore. And then the Richelieu kicks the bucket as well. So all of those dudes that were just nonchalantly pushing up the western side of the map for no good reason whatsoever have all kicked the bucket. The Baltimore is now at 630 hit points, and I do manage to get the kill secure as I also shoot down another aircraft on that Tier 9 American heavy cruiser. I'm up to 145,000 points of damage, and now I'm using my next defensive fire to try and shoot down these enemy fighter planes that are in the vicinity. And you can see with the defensive fire active, you're still able to shoot down a decent bit. 2 more fighters shot down, make that 3, and hopefully, nope, we're not going to make that 4, but that lone fighter aircraft does have to get out of dodge. Now, this play that I'm going to make here is quite a bit of a mistake, in all honesty. You can see that the enemy Missouri on the 1 line in the New Orleans that was last spotted in B3. Now, you can see the New Orleans gets detected as he's moving into the ACAP. Now, the New Orleans has a radar range of about 9 kilometers, so at this point, I'm only 10 kilometers away from him, and he is rapidly closing the distance to me. I shouldn't have went around this side of the island. I should have made the cautious play and stayed on the other side, because any second now, he's going to use his radar, and I'm going to be in a bit of a pickle here. You can see 8.8 kilometers away. I do drop my torpedoes, only 5.5 kilometers of range. They're not going to reach the target, but I decided to drop them just in case. And you can afford to drop torpedoes if an enemy ship is about 2 kilometers further away from you than your torpedo's maximum range, as long as they continue to close the distance and are moving at about 30 knots. Now you can see here, I've put myself in a rather bad situation. I don't have any smoke remaining. There's enemy dive bombers coming in, but my defensive fire is on cooldown. It's 884 to 891. The enemy Missouri that was moving over there did at least throw some shells my direction, so I do have to be careful. You can see here I am a sitting duck, and there's some enemy torpedo bombers coming in as well. The Monarch is also shooting at me, so I'm trying to put myself in a spot where 3 ships from 3 different angles aren't able to lob shells at me. I managed to run aground, and all the shells from the Monarch just pass overhead, which is good, but now it appears that I think the Kutuzov is shooting at me as well, so I got to get out of dodge right here. I cannot afford to sit here because you can see that those torpedo planes, they appear that they're coming right in at me. My AA is still going to town. I shot down 7 planes so far, and here come the torpedo planes, but because the Sims has such good maneuverability, this is not going to be an issue whatsoever. I turn right into the path. We're not into the path, but I'm going parallel with the torpedoes. So now I'm going to slow down, and hopefully the Missouri, if he shot right now, is going to shoot well into in front of me. You can see the New Orleans, his shot was thrown off, actually, by my rapid deceleration. The enemy Monarch is at 3,300 hit points. It's 919 to 949. We are going to win the game as long as nobody else dies. The Kronstadt that is on the CCAP, I'm not sure how many hit points that he has, but at this moment, the Monarch is slowly getting whittled down. I do get some more shells that come in, a couple hits, I believe some over penetrations from the Missouri. I'm now trying to slow down here and get some more shots, but the Monarch is also coming to a stop as well. So all the shells that hit at the bow, they don't have enough penetration, and then the Kronstadt manages to take care of business, and that is going to be the end of a pretty crazy game here on the map Haven. Alrighty guys, taking a look now at the post-battle results. 673,000 credits received and 6.5k total experience earned. I picked up Confederate and First Blood, dealing 148,000 points of damage off of 430 shell hits. I shot down 7 planes, sank 2 boats, had 8 fires, and had 1 assisted base capture. Taking a look at the team score, oh boy, 2,761 base experience in The Sims, and that's not even close to the highest that I've been able to achieve. But in a tier 9 game, doing that kind of a hard carry, that is a performance that anybody should be proud of. Taking a look at the detailed report, 85,000 damage dealt with the HE, 27,000 damage dealt with the armor piercing, and a further 36,000 damage dealt with the fires that I set. And also a very healthy number for potential damage, 1.24 million. And I also managed to secure 33 of our team's 120 points of capture. So that's some good stuff. And then because it's a premium, we'll take a look at the credits. I spent just over 100,000, but with some of those money flags going, 569,000 dollars, credits, whatever, profit with the premium account is certainly nothing to scoff at. So I hope you guys enjoyed this replay as much as I had playing it. Please consider giving the video a like, a comment, or possibly subscribing to our YouTube channel. All of it is very much appreciated. And with that being said, this is the Sneaky Snake for Brothers in Arms World of Warships signing off. Guys and gals, as always, have a great day.